You're just one decision away from changing your life. Imagine this, one decision and your entire life could change forever. Just one moment, one choice, and suddenly a door opens to an entirely new path. A path filled with experiences you've never had, beliefs stronger than ever, and a completely new identity. Sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? That everything that has led you to this very moment, the memories, the limitations you once believed were unbreakable, could all be left behind, could all disappear in a single, decisive moment. What could be more incredible than that? Right now, you're standing at the crossroads of two imagined worlds, the past and the future. One world has already passed, unchangeable and gone. The other has yet to arrive, and it is entirely in your hands. So what will you choose? Will you hold on to what's already behind you, or will you create the future you truly deserve? The past is just a story, not a prophecy. The past is gone. It can't be changed, can't be relived, can't be touched. In reality, it no longer holds any meaning. And yet, ironically, the past becomes our ruler. It defines who we think we are, a constructed identity built from old memories, from the stories we've told ourselves. But take a closer look. It's nothing more than yesterday's imagined world. Just like a baby elephant tied to a chair with a rope. As a calf, it struggles, it pulls, but no matter how hard it tries, it can't break free. Eventually, it accepts the belief that it never will. Then it grows. It becomes strong enough to snap that rope in an instant, but it never even tries. Because it's not the rope that holds it back, it's the false belief it accepted as truth. And that's exactly what the past is. It's not reality, it's a lie. You are not what happened yesterday. You are not your failures, your mistakes, or the limits you once believed you couldn't overcome. You are right now. You are who you choose to become, starting in this very moment. You are not your old stories, you are the author of a new one. We get so caught up in our old stories that we forget we have the power to shape our future. We lock ourselves inside invisible labels, repeating the same familiar phrases. I'm not a morning person. Really? Or have you just never trained yourself to wake up early? I let people walk all over me. That simply means you haven't yet learned to stand up for yourself. But who says that has to continue? I'm clumsy, I'm shy, I'm not good at writing, running, or public speaking. Maybe that was true before. But what does that have to do with who you are today? Because the past doesn't decide who you are unless you let it. What you've done, what you've believed, what you've thought about yourself. Those are just old stories. You are not bound by them. You can write a new chapter, starting right now. Recognizing your control, your greatest superpower, the moment you realize that you have control over your life, that you can disconnect from your old stories, that they do not define you. That moment is your greatest superpower. Calling yourself a bad student just because you failed a test once, that's like wearing a raincoat all day today, just because it rained yesterday. But the sun is out now. You're no longer stuck in yesterday's storm. Adapt. Change. When you truly understand that right now is the beginning of the rest of your life, you'll see that everything can change, bit by day. Don't define yourself by what you used to do. Define yourself by who you want to become and start moving toward it. Equip yourself with the tools to change. Read The Power of Habit and Atomic Habits, because change isn't overwhelming or impossible. It's simply the small choices you make every single day. Change isn't something to fear. It's your privilege. Change isn't crazy. It isn't overwhelming, and it isn't something to fear. Change is simply adjusting the little things in your life so they work for you instead of against you. Start your day not by thinking about what has happened, but by focusing on what could happen. Don't worry about what could go wrong. Focus on what could go right. Because you are always one decision away from a completely different life. You are always one decision away from change, from letting go, from stepping out of the old stories you once accepted as truth. And remember that. But don't just remember it when things are going well. Remember this when you feel stuck. Remember this not just when things are going well, but especially when you're struggling. when you feel restless, anxious, uncertain, when you lose motivation, when you wake up and don't even want to get out of bed, when you look in the mirror and feel dissatisfied with who you see, because those moments are not your ending. When you feel negative, it simply means you're looking at the past, not at what's possible. And there's no room for that distraction, not when you have the power to reach forward and start building something new, not when you can step into a new pair of shoes and walk down an entirely different path. You are always just one decision away from completely changing your life, and that decision should be the first and most important one. Choose the future over the past. Choose the future, not the past. The most important thing you can do is choose the future over the past. Choose the next step instead of staying stuck in the last one. Choose the ideal world you want to live in and start building it today. I still remember a moment, years ago, when I had one of the biggest breakthroughs of my life. I shared this realization with those closest to me, my family, my friends, my clients, my business partners. And through those conversations, I discovered something we all have in common. For some, this realization happens in different ways. For others, it happens at different times in life. But sooner or later, everyone will face that moment, the moment they realize they have more control over their life than they ever imagined. The moment you realize your power. There will come a time when you face the truth that you have far more control over your life than you ever thought. And that's the moment you become truly powerful. It's like realizing you've had the key to your prison cell this entire time. You were never actually trapped. You just never tried to open the door. And when you see that, a natural question arises. So why not start living the way I know I can? Why sacrifice? Of course, life comes with responsibilities and sacrifices, but this realization makes you ask an even bigger question. What am I sacrificing? Where am I going? Am I spending my time with people who truly lift me up? Because every single day you live is a choice, and now you know you have the power to make a better one. Are you living a life true to yourself? Am I doing things that contribute to my bigger vision? Am I truly living a life that aligns with who I am? Because if there's one thing I can tell you with absolute certainty, time moves fast, not just next month, next year, or the next decade, but before you even realize it. And worse, none of it is guaranteed. If you don't take the time to look in the mirror and ask yourself the hard questions, life will keep moving forward without you. Time won't stop. And no one is going to walk up to you and say, "Hey, you're just going through the motions." No one will do that for you. Only you can ask yourself, am I living a life I truly want? What are you building? In the end, it all comes down to you. You have to realize that this world can be whatever you decide it will be. You've been given the tools to create change, but tools alone mean nothing. They need an architect, a creator, a visionary who can turn what doesn't yet exist into reality. So maybe this is the moment to ask yourself, what am I building? Where am I going? When I start each day, when my feet hit the ground and I step out the door, what am I moving toward? Maybe today is the day you finally realize there are things in your life that no longer need to be there, and you have the power to cut them away. You don't have to live the same life on repeat. There are people who don't deserve your time, people who don't lift you up, people who don't contribute to your happiness. Maybe you keep going to the same places just because you always have. Maybe you keep doing the same things just because that's what you've always done. You are Lifcorn. But you don't have to live a life on repeat, especially if it's not making you happy. So why not do something to change it? Nothing in your life is set in stone. Yesterday is now just a story. So the idea that you're stuck in some rigid framework, that's just another story you've told yourself. Tear down those walls. Do you dare to rewrite your story? Look at the world not as it is, but as it could be. What if you had the courage to step away from your old stories, your old roles? What would happen? What if today you wrote a new ending, an ending that makes you wake up excited, energized, an ending that gives your life meaning when you close your eyes at night? But remember, no one is going to hand that to you. No one is going to tell you that you've been selling yourself short. That transformation, it has to come from within you. And so I hope you start asking the questions, the ones you've ignored for far too long. Today could be the first page of a new story. I hope today marks the beginning of a brand new chapter in your life. A chapter written by you. A chapter where you're no longer a supporting character in someone else's story, but the one holding the pen, deciding your own fate. If you can't create the heat, get out of the kitchen. In his book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, John Maxwell talks about motivation and leadership. He references the well-known saying, "If you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen." But according to him, that's not quite right. Instead, the real question should be, if you can't create the heat, then get out of the kitchen. Because we are not just bystanders. We are not spectators. We are the leaders of our own lives. You are not a spectator. You are a creator. I think John Maxwell touched on a truth none of us should ignore. Motivation is not something to wait for. It's something to create. We are not spectators, sitting in the stands, watching, reacting, complaining about what's happening below. None of us should ignore. We have the power to change what we don't like. We have the ability to create what doesn't yet exist if we know it's worth creating. But too often, instead of doing that, we just react to life's pressures. Just like John Maxwell's metaphor about the heat in the kitchen, we forget that we are not just the ones enduring it. We are the ones controlling it. We can turn it up, we can turn it down, we can turn it change. So instead of waiting for something to change, be the one who creates that change. You are not just a character. You are the author of your story. We are not just characters shaped by our circumstances. We are creators. I've talked a lot about the mindset shifts that have transformed my life. There have been many, but perhaps the most important was this: realizing that I can do something about the things I don't like. It sounds simple, maybe even obvious, but when I look back at different phases of my life, I see how many things I put up with for years, simply because I never questioned them. I lived within self-imposed limits without ever asking myself, why am I accepting this? Is there another way? What can I do to change it? And the truth is, opportunities are always around us. We just haven't been looking. The power of refusing to accept what you don't want. For a long time, I lived in a reality I never truly questioned. I never explored other possibilities until one day I realized, hey, you don't have to keep accepting things you don't want. And that changed everything. The power of one simple action. Writing down a list of things that no longer serve you is incredible. I made a list with 2 columns. On the left, I wrote down everything that frustrated me, everything I wasn't happy with, everything I knew should be part of my life but was missing. On the right, I wrote down exactly what I was going to do about them, one by one, step by step. And as I put my thoughts and emotions onto that page, I had a realization. I was no longer just a passenger in my own life. I was in the driver's seat. You don't have to just accept, you can take control. There's something incredibly powerful about realizing you have control over your own life. A deep sense of satisfaction when you understand that you're not just sitting there accepting whatever life throws at you. Because here's the strange thing. Humans have a tendency to trap themselves in invisible cages. We adapt to our circumstances, but sometimes we adapt to things that no longer serve us. We accept a reality that should have been changed a long time ago. And here's the biggest danger of all, forgetting that nothing happens without momentum. And momentum isn't something you wait for, it's something you create. The rope didn't hold them back. They held themselves back. One of my favorite stories perfectly illustrates this. A man walks past a circus and sees huge elephants. Each one has a small rope tied around its leg, the other end connected to a tiny chair. Confused, he asks the trainer, "Isn't this dangerous? These elephants could easily pull the rope and run away if they wanted." The trainer smiles and replies, "No, they won't. You see, we started tying them up when they were babies. Back then, they weren't strong enough to break free. And over the years, even though they've grown into powerful creatures, they never realize that all they have to do is pull or take a step forward and they'd be free." The chains became invisible, not because they were actually holding the elephants back, but because the elephants believed they couldn't escape. War squirrel. It wasn't the rope that kept them trapped. It was their false belief that they could never break free. What's holding you back? There's something profoundly powerful in this story. For some, it represents a big picture view of life, an entire system of invisible limits we unconsciously accept. For others, it's simply a small push, a reminder that sometimes the only thing truly holding us back isn't our circumstances, but the beliefs we've never dared to challenge. The invisible chains and how to create momentum. I've been through my fair share of ups and downs, and honestly, I think that's a good thing. It's a sign that you're pushing for growth, that you're scanning the world around you, trying to find the invisible chains that are still holding you back. Hobogon. Recently, I found myself in one of those phases again. I felt like too much time had passed without anything truly significant happening. I knew I needed to create momentum. I needed to shake things up. So I asked myself, who am I connecting with? How have I actually been pushing myself? When was the last time I did something that scared me? What was the last thing I did that helped me grow? How can I take everything to the next level? Because if you don't stop and ask yourself these questions, life will keep moving forward, but you'll stay exactly where you are. The small opportunities around you and the power of momentum. Opportunities are always around us. Tiny leverage points that could change your life completely are always there, but you have to actively look for them, recognize them, and pull on them. And when you do, something incredible happens. You start to feel movement beneath you. You feel momentum. You feel excitement rising inside you. Because you're trying new things. You're taking new risks. You're talking to new people. And that's how the snowball of change starts rolling. We need to recognize something. We are strong elephants, but we let ourselves be tied to tiny chairs in the most ridiculous way. We are not held back by the rope. We are held back by our own thinking. And if we want to change, we have to do one thing: create the heat in our own kitchen. You're not just capable, you're ready. We are not just capable of change, we are ready for it. We are already equipped to move forward. Horror. But remember this, the perfect moment will never come. Motivation will never just appear. Those things aren't waiting for you, but you can decide to stop waiting for them. You can stop watching life pass you by. You can press start. And when you do, you'll realize time has always been ticking, but it has never meant as much as it does right now. Tick tock. Every second that passes is a reminder that opportunity is always there, but you have to reach out and take it. Because to grow, to evolve, you must make a decision. Are you bold enough to go where you've never gone before? Are you strong enough to let go of what no longer serves you? If the answer is yes, then stop waiting. Choose temporary discomfort or lifelong regret. You can choose a little discomfort in the process of change, or you can choose a lifetime of regret. That's the trade-off everyone must face. But to truly grow, you must look beyond the present. You must find value in the unseen, in the things you can't fully grasp yet, but that will change your life if you dare to believe in them. This is the mindset of those who go far. Time is too precious to waste on fear. Time is too valuable to dishonor by living an average life when you are capable of so much more. And the answers to life's biggest questions, they have always been there. Because in the end, life comes down to one thing: the choices you make, even when you don't realize you're making them. Because fate is not what you're given, it's what you choose to do with it. It's never too late to set yourself free. There are endless opportunities waiting for you. You are not stuck. It is never too late to break free from the invisible chains holding you back. It is never too late to become who you were meant to be. As the saying goes, nothing in your world exists without your approval. And that will always be true. Nothing remains in your life unless you allow it to. This realization is the boundary between staying grounded and soaring to the heights you are truly capable of reaching. And sometimes, a small change is all it takes to create a major shift. An email sent, a call made, a trip planned, a ticket booked, a single decisive moment. The things that seem small are often the very beginning of transformation. It all starts with one small step. Step outside, send the message, make the call, choose a new direction. These things may seem small, but within them lies your ticket to greatness. Because the difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one isn't luck, it's choice. But remember, you have to be the one to wind your own clock. You are not a passenger in your own life. You are the sun, and everything else revolves around your decisions. You are the architect, the creator who turns small actions into something meaningful. And momentum will always exist wherever you decide to create it. So lift your head up, open that door, and step into a world of endless possibilities waiting for you. Lessons from long roads and dark nights. In the dead of night, with headlights cutting through the endless road ahead. Everything I once knew now exists only in the rearview mirror. And it was on those roads that I learned some of life's most important lessons. I learned the value of making hard decisions, even when they made me anxious, even when they were filled with uncertainty. I learned what it felt like to be let down by the very people I trusted. But through that disappointment, I also learned the power of loyalty and the importance of standing by the people who truly matter. I learned that failure is part of the journey. Stress isn't a sign of collapse, it's a sign of growth. Uncertainty doesn't mean you're lost, it means you're stepping into something new. But perhaps the greatest lesson of all, life keeps moving, and when you allow yourself to fall, you build immunity to the fear of hitting the ground, because every time you fall, you learn how to stand back up, stronger than before. You will be stronger after the pain. You will be stronger after the pain. You will be stronger after the loss. You will be stronger after the deepest wounds in your heart. I've learned to cherish every moment, to look around and never take anything for granted, because in the blink of an eye, with just a snap of a finger, life can change completely. I've learned that anger and past conflicts aren't worth carrying forever. I've learned to choose my battles, and most of the time I realized they weren't worth my energy or my time. Because our perspectives, our thoughts, our beliefs, they are nothing more than a reflection of our circumstances and experiences. And sometimes the smallest effort to understand the person in front of you is all it takes to turn conflict into a moment of understanding. You can be the difference between building and breaking. You have the power to make a difference between building or breaking, between connecting or distancing, between being overlooked or being respected. I've learned that true leadership doesn't come from power. It comes from empowering those around you. The greatest value of a leader isn't standing above others, it's lifting others up. Sometimes, Walking alone is necessary, but nothing compares to building a vision so strong that the people around you believe in it and choose to build it with you. Life is a great teacher, but it doesn't teach us through easy lessons. Only when we endure its hardest tests do we truly understand its curriculum. The greatest lessons in life aren't simply taught. They must be experienced, felt, and engraved through challenges. And everything you need, it has always been there, as long as you are willing to open your heart and receive it. The universe wants you to win. If you open your eyes and truly look, you'll realize a simple yet powerful truth. The universe wants you to win. It's not working against you. It's not trying to break you. It's reaching out, offering you everything you need, as long as you're willing to receive it. The hardships, they're not here to destroy you. They're preparing you for something better. The losses, they're not taking everything away. They're laying the foundation for future success. The mistakes, they don't define you. They're stepping stones to the greatest things you will ever do. Life is always teaching you something. And if you listen closely, you'll understand. There are no limits. There are no barriers. There's only the next chapter, waiting for you to write it. If you don't take risks, you'll never achieve greatness. If you're not willing to be vulnerable, you will forfeit your own greatness. If you don't take the risk of failing, you will never have the chance to leave your mark. You will never have the chance to be laughed at, but you will also never have the chance to be applauded. If you don't trade today's comfort for an uncertain future, you will never know the fortune that awaits you. Yes, being vulnerable is hard. It can be harsh. It can be painful, but it has to be. Because it is the ocean that separates what you have from what you want. Because it is the mountain standing between who you are and who you want to become. So the only question left is, are you willing to cross it? Daring to be vulnerable is daring to succeed. Being vulnerable doesn't mean being weak. It means you stop obsessing over what could go wrong and start focusing on what could go right, because every decision is a double-edged sword. Will you release that song? Yes, it might fail, but it could also launch your dream. Will you step into the gym for the first time? Yes, you might look like you have no idea what you're doing, but it could also make you feel better about yourself than ever before. Will you apply for that promotion? Yes, you might get rejected, but it could also open doors to a career you never thought possible. Every choice in life carries risk, but it also carries opportunity. So the real question isn't what could go wrong, it's what could go amazingly right. Are you willing to embrace transformation? Do you see the pattern here? Every major decision comes with risk, and because of that, most people avoid them. The ones who dare to stand out, the ones who walk the road less traveled. They challenge society's deep-rooted need to fit in. They break the mold. They are like fire and water, they don't blend in, and that's exactly why they make a difference. Do you see it now? Most of our stress doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within, from our desire to be accepted, to belong, to be cool. Want to try a fun experiment? Watch how fast being cool turns into being average, because greatness doesn't come from blending in. It comes from repeating the uncool things, the things that no one else is willing to do. The different ones, they are the ones who change the world. The bold ones are the ones who change the world. The bold ones, they change everything. They accept being called irrational. They accept being laughed at. They accept failure and not getting it right the first time. But they don't stop. If you never allow yourself to be vulnerable, you'll never experience failure on a meaningful level. And if you never fail, you never learn. If you never learn, you never grow. And if that's the path you choose, then forget about the mountaintop. Because safety, comfort, and a flawless reputation, might get you a nice seat, but that seat is at the bottom, looking up at those who saw the opportunity and had the courage to take it. Look at the bigger picture. Don't let fear hold you back. So as you climb, as you move forward, always keep your eyes on the bigger picture. Remember, the worries you have today, one day, they'll feel small when you look back. As we move through different chapters of life, we realize the things we once obsessed over weren't as important as we thought. The obstacles we feared were nothing more than mental tests. The decisions we delayed because of insignificant factors weren't worth holding us back. That's the beauty of risk. When you dare to take risks, your perspective expands. You begin to see small things don't matter anymore. Mistakes don't define you. Criticism from strangers loses its power. Because when you're no longer afraid of those things, you become unstoppable. The real question, are you in control of your life? In the end, it's not about the mistakes you've made. It's not about the obstacles in your way. It's about this. Are you in control of your life? Are you doing something that truly matters? Are you bold enough to follow your instincts and your heart? I know it's not easy. I know it can feel uncomfortable. I can't promise the road ahead will be paved with gold. I can't guarantee that everything will go exactly as planned. But here's what I can promise you. You will learn to adapt. You will move forward. The doubters and critics will fade away until they completely disappear. And most importantly, I promise that if you do nothing, you will go nowhere. If you don't take action, if you don't take the leap, if you don't even try, you will never move beyond where you are today. And that is the only way to truly fail. So believe in yourself. Trust your journey. Know that you are not ordinary. You are extraordinary. And most importantly, create your own magic. Start now.